Hey everyone, I am back with another video. Jedi Mike 7 here, and today we're going to be reviewing Suicide Squad. Now, I know I'm in a different location right now. I'm on vacation, visiting some family and everything, but the show will go on, and that's why I had like a slight delay of posting some videos on the past couple of weeks. Past couple of days. So thank you guys for your patience, but I am back, and we're ready and we're moving forward. So. Today, I'm reviewing the film The Suicide Squad into DC Universe. This is to be directed by James Gunn. This came out as the last Friday of the taping of this recording. This is going to be a spoiler review discussion, and also I'm going to also explain the ending or the end credit scene of this film that will be leading to um, an already finished shot show with that one of the characters in the film that can be basically getting their own series on HBO Max. So let's get right into the into review. So with the Suicide Squad, it's directed by James Gunn, and this is this quote unquote sequel to the 2016 film directed by David Ayer, Suicide Squad. Now, I want to say that I actually wouldn't have time to do this review. I didn't want to do this review immediately because um, after watching the first time, I had my immediate reactions. This was a very entertaining film. Actually, this is probably the most fun I had in the theater so far this year. Even though we got a ton of movies left that's coming out in the rest of the year, but as of right now, this is like one of the most fun I have. Is it the best film I've seen this year? No, absolutely not. But is definitely one of the most enjoyable films I had this year. But I wouldn't have time to process my thoughts about this after the second viewing I seen, because just some things that I felt that might have turned to actual negatives that should became positives. I should actually let it more sink into my head, knowing what James Gunn's feel is to the characters and everything. His approach, obviously, for him directing the films like Guardians of the Galaxy from Marvel, and how Warner Brothers, after he was supposedly fired from tweets from back in the day, that Warner Brothers immediately called him, say, "Hey, we want you to do a Suicide Squad," and gave him full creative range to do whatever he want with this film. And obviously, this shows. So let's get uh, right into review. So with this film, you see certain returning characters. You see Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie. This is I think, her third time appearing in terms of the Harley Quinn role. First in Suicide Squad, then also her own film, Birds of Prey. You also have the person that plays Rick Flag. You have Captain Boomerang. You have Viola Davis, who played Amanda Waller. But you also have a ton of new characters. You see Idris Elba taking the lead role as leader of the team as Bloodsport. You have John Cena, who's a Peacemaker. You also have Sylvester Stallone, who is voicing King Shark, and basically a bunch of different unique characters. So one of the things I actually liked about this film that they did was how one thing that James Gunn does very well is that he does characters very well. That he likes to, in terms of having development in ways that obscure characters that you would not immediately think that you will actually remember their names after viewing the film, but actually you remember more of the obscure characters more, the more popular characters. Like, for example, like with Bloodsport, with Idris Elba, Ratcatcher, or Ratcatcher number two. Even Peacemaker, Polkadot Man. Even Polkadot Man was even a highlight in this film. But one thing he did very well was talking about adding emotional weight into crazy scenes that happening, and especially you're dealing with a bunch of different things, especially with his approach with how with the term Suicide Squad. This film is rated R. I will say for anybody, don't try to take your kids to go see this. Whatever, there is nudity in the film as well, but there's really a lot of violence in it. But one thing they actually do is they go back and stream what the root of the comic books are, is the Suicide Squad, how basically a bunch of them get killed off, which happens basically beginning this film. But one thing that he did really particularly well in this film as well is the fact that the characters that he killed off are actually more weighted characters. Like, for example, he killed off Captain Boomerang in the first 5 minutes, who's almost a core member of the Suicide Squad lore, if you know from the comics. And yeah, even in throughout the film later, you get to like other characters like Rick Flag, with that fight with Peacemaker. And you actually have emotional weight, because in the first film we really didn't care about these characters, but them, I felt they were utilized very well. But I think it's kind of showing that in this film anything is possible. But they did James Gunn again did a really good job in terms of exploring these characters, but also kind of giving not only the comic adaptations, but also his own creative feel to it. Not just making another type of Guardians of the Galaxy, skin of a DC movie. It basically you basically got the same trope of some of the things you've seen in the Guardians of the Galaxy films, whether it's a comedy, whether it's the action scenes, that drive the story. But one thing I commend him for is just in terms of the look and the visual aesthetic of the characters. For example, particularly to Rick Flag and Harley Quinn. To me, this is the most comic accurate Harley Quinn we've gotten. Um, Especially just for outfits and everything like that. But even with Rick Flag, a character who I said was really just a sideline and then that almost a waste of a character in his first film. That in this film you felt for him and you actually feel for him when he ultimately meet his demise. Even Bloodsport, who even though he has a similar storyline like Deadshot, he has a daughter, he is a shooter and everything like that. But he wasn't a carbon copy of Will Smith's character, which I liked. There's two different characters. Obviously, with the character in Bloodsport, he was put into Belle Reve because he shot Superman with a kryptonite bullet. And one of the things I did like about it also too, the fact in the world, even though the cinematic universe of these DC films are kind of still convoluted, even though whether with the Snyderverse or with the upcoming Flash movie, what they're gonna reset timelines now. When they're talking about this film, they're saying, "Oh, it isn't really a sequel, it's not a reboot, it is whatever." They haven't really decided what this actually is. But one thing you do is like you feel that it's a DC film. You don't actually feel the weight of their basically continuously on the weight of referencing popular characters. Like obviously you have certain characters or Batman characters, um, or even like acknowledging Superman, the fact they don't rely on the Easter eggs in the world, the DC universe, instead they just rely on these characters to full and drive the narrative of the story. And I felt they did really good. Did a really good job there. Um, but one thing that I gotta say is too is the weight of these characters and the relationships they have with each other. For example, I have to highlight the relationship that Idris Elba and the actress who play Ratcatcher number two is the fact that the fact their relationship, how they sympathize with other people, even though they're all technically bad guys, right? The fact that you feel emotions for them, even though you knowing these are really horrible people, like hacking people and everything is crazy. But then when you realize the fact that they were all the rebels that were going against the Mexican government and realized they just killed basically innocent people. And but the thing I like about that is that we thinking, oh, it's just whatever, they brush it off. But it happened with other actual heroes, there'll be some weight to it. But with them, they're villains, so it's like, oh yeah, I'll forget about it. And it was just kind of showing the fact of the nature that these guys are villains. They're not, really, misunderstood heroes, or at least for some of them. I feel like with Ratcatcher and Idris Elba, like even the scene we have with his daughter, played by Storm Reed, that the fact that he said, "I want you to, tell his daughter, I want you to get away from people who are like me," you know. So the fact that he's self-aware that he's not a good person too, but in the film that even the fact of Ratcatcher with her relationship with her father, played by Taika Waititi, which is insane. There was a lot of Marvel reference or character or actors in the uh, in the um, in the film that obviously from the Marvel films. Obviously, you have Michael Rooker from Guardians of the Galaxy who played Yondu. You had you had basically uh, uh, the Mantis, the actress that plays Mantis, she was one of the dancers, and when they went into the bar or the gentleman's club, and then you have Taika Waititi who played Ratcatcher one, who was the father of Ratcatcher two, and basically died because he had I guess like a heroin or I guess addiction or something like that. He was injecting himself with drugs and then he ultimately died. But just showing the fact that I felt so much weight and she actually feel like sympathy for Ratcatcher. Just like she's the youngest one on the team, but she's like almost like the joking of the millennial. But you really feel emotions for these characters that I would not know before watching this film. That I would actually have some feelings for characters I never even heard of before. As someone who's knowledgeable of comic books, I did not know who really what Bloodsport was. I might have looked on YouTube and knew who he was, but I didn't know who Ratcatcher was. I knew of Polkadot Man, but I didn't know his backstory. Um, other characters that ultimately they got killed in the first half, like Mongel, Javelin, even Weasel. Even though the fact it was a funny scene of him, jump off the plane and he couldn't swim and he drowned, basically died. Um, even though he woke up at the end of the movie. I thought that was funny. But I thought that they did a good job in terms of um, how James Gunn, how he organized the narrative of this film, especially how he periodically goes switching from different points in time, like what say 8 minutes later or 3 minutes earlier, or whatever, or as the same scene is happening chronologically with the same time as a different scene, but they're all coming together at one point to meet when they interact with each other. Especially when it was got to a point where they were at the base when that was holding Starro. That the scene where after John Cena killed Rick Flag, or Peacemaker killed Rick Flag, and then he's about to kill Ratcatcher, but at the same time Harley Quinn, Bloodsport, Polkadot Man, and King Shark at a different point, and the building about to crash down, and Bloodsport is going by level until he meets the level where Peacemaker was. So they were able to square off and have like a standoff, which I thought that was really good. But he did it over time and time again with this film. But I just felt that was kind of creative and done very well for narrative of this particular type of story. It was this film as a DC film felt very organic. That's why I appreciate it, especially after recent ones like Wonder Woman 84 and other stuff. Like it just this I felt this was a breath of fresh air as a DC film. But let's continue on with the review. Let's see. One thing I mentioned about Harley Quinn is that the action is one of the good thing about the scene. She has a very centerpiece in this film where she's breaking out her being captive, and just visually how they kind of give this type of Harley vision with flowers and stuff as she's shooting people and going to like the perspective of her mind. Even then, it's like each one thing I appreciate that you notice if you watch it, that each scene that pertains to a character, it's in their perspective. Especially when in Harley, we see like the flowers and everything, the music and the lights and everything kind of change. And I thought they did very well. However, I want to say that when I kind of go into one of the cons of this film was talked about with Margot Robbie, is that even though they didn't acknowledge her characters, that there really not much more really they can do with her. Only thing really left is for maybe her relationship with Poison Ivy, which I know Margot Robbie, if reported that she wants to do that in a particular film, but I felt like the flaw of this film, or really the flaw of the DC universe, is the fact that they are adding that they're basically almost rushing into storylines, the fact that haven't earned the emotional weight. For example, like we have off shots of the first Suicide Squad movie that had Jared Leto as a Joker, had Ben Affleck as a Batman, but you didn't really spend time with years of Harley Quinn being a villain, to a point where then after when she broke off from Joker, you felt weight, and her coming to her own, it just felt really kind of quick, and you feel like there wasn't really emotional weight. Same criticism that some people feel for Zack Snyder. How when rush into the depth of Superman, Dark Knight Returns, other thing, Injustice, or other things that his films that a lot of people kind of criticize him for, the fact that you're rushing to things that haven't earned the emotional weight, unlike the Marvel movies. Like for example, the fact that you spent three Captain America movies to the point where ultimately when you got into Avengers Endgame, when he finally lifted Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, that the audience reaction felt genuine, because like, wait, it's so long with this character to finally see him actually have to hold the hammer, because that was earned. And I feel like a lot of things in this film that, at least with her character, wasn't earned, because I feel it just kind of rushed into basically the narrative of her actually feeling, especially in her own movie, which I gotta say I really did not like. But yeah, that's what basically my criticism really was. But one of my highlights, standout characters I mentioned with Ratcatcher and Bloodsport, but also is Polkadot Man. Polkadot Man, thought that was really a weight, especially they added some type of body horror into him. The fact that his mother, which is an ongoing joke that he sees his mother everywhere, which again, seeing the character, which character you're at, you see their perspective. The fact that when you look at Polkadot Man, he's looking at everyone and basically seeing his own mother. And is switching to that. Even Starro, when the point when he before he dies, like attacking him and stuff, you actually see the point of his perspective, seeing his mom and looking in a gigantic form. But I felt this actor did a really good job. He's in everywhere. He's in Dark Knight. He's in Ant-Man. He was in Flash. This actor is in a lot of comic properties, but I commend him for playing this role. I wish he didn't die, but I commend him from this role, the fact that he's taking this obscure character and adding emotional weight for us to actually care about him. Did a really good job. One of the things I felt like with Starro that they did very well with the same thing they did with King Shark is how they added some emotional weight with basically with these CGI characters. How the fact that he wasn't really attacking the world. He was just gliding in the snow in the stars just out of nowhere in the U.S. government, which you find out was actually the U.S. government was running the actual the Project Starfish. The fact that they were that they were behind it was the Mexican government, which led to Amanda Waller saying, "Hey, we can't get this information out" and stuff like that. But you see the particular lines how he said that that he's also basically a victim. The true villain of this film wasn't really a star; it was actually Amanda Waller. Um, and they have a really good job in terms of directing your perspective of actually who is the villain, but also perspective of the what is the motivation of these characters. In fact, that Star would just want to be alone, but each time as he take captive the people that he takes starfish that come to your face, which did a really good job with the special effects with the flying attaching to the face like alien and stuff. Did a really good job. But even with King Shark, the fact that there's a certain scene with him just in the car and he looking out into the street with people socializing, the fact that he wants to have friends narratively, even though he said very little words. The fact that he's not, he just really is a sympathized character that you feel that you know, you feel from even with the relationship we had with Ratcatcher beginning the film, he almost ate her and saying, "No, I can be your friend" and stuff. It's just the fact that this is a continuing thing that James Gunn done, obviously in Guardians of the Galaxy with with Groot or Rocket Raccoon or other characters like that. He does his best, and with the obscurity of these characters, obviously the concept of them, I would not have seen thinking that Star will ever come to life 10 years ago. The fact that we're able to get to the point in the comic book genre that we can get to this point and that it doesn't seem that ridiculous. But even though it's ridiculous, the point that the film there was a bunch of craziness before we even got to Starro in the first place. But again, I thought this film did a really good job in terms of what they did with this villain and actually feel for him even after he died. Um, but then, as we get into the end of the film, I think we're about to go into the end credit scene, which is basically when after Peacemaker, the whole battle he had with Bloodsport, with the smaller boy went to his throat. You thought he died, but really, he just got crushed on the Rebel, so he actually survived. And this leads to basically the upcoming HBO Max series that James Gunn will also be directing and will be writing, and that's already actually been filmed and shot. This Peacemaker series that with John Cena. And one question I had with John Cena was the fact that him as an actor, even though seeing him in Fast and Furious and other films like this, is that can he carry himself as a lead actor? I don't want to say I felt that in this film, but I did feel that I want to see more of his character because it just felt that there's certain actors out there that felt they could be good supporting characters, but not lead characters. But over time, I think John Cena's over time is proving that he can do it. But I still have not seen that from him, but hope to see it in the upcoming Peacemaker series. I think the release date supposed to be coming early 2022, but we will yet to see. So, other than that, I want to say thank you guys for watching this review. Again, we got more reviews coming. We got more videos gonna be dropping soon. But I'm actually gonna give my overall rating of this film. I'm gonna give this film an 8 out of 10. Period. This was a beautifully made film by James Gunn. Was it the best film? No, but you just had the most fun with it. And really, I just felt that this film did a really good job in terms of with the characters, with all the character development and what they did. That just was a breath of fresh air. The fact that I've seen James Gunn doing it, a DC property, I'd like to see more from him. I'll make sure you go check Suicide Squad on HBO Max. Is also currently streaming right now, but you can also see it in theaters if you want to. But again, my name's Jedi Mike. Until next time, God bless you. Bye bye.